Welcome to the nextTalk podcast. We are a nonprofit passionate about keeping kids safe online. We're learning together how to navigate tech, culture, and faith with our kids.
Hey, I have an 8 and 10-year-old, and I'm just worried about summer and how I'm going to keep my kids from playing on screens all summer long, and what you might have to say about that.
Well, at 8 and 10, I mean, you can definitely just say, no, we're not playing screens, or we're only playing screens this time, and set certain hours. But honestly, I would ask that you go a little bit deeper, because I believe that you can take your no and create education around why you're saying no. And that creates really good conversations with your kids. 8 and 10, you're managing screen time probably a lot. As your kids get older, though, and for any of you, those who are listening who have older kids, we need to move towards self-regulation as well. So for example, if you've got a kid who's playing Xbox and they're getting mad and angry at the Xbox, they need to be able, as they get older, to self-regulate and realize, I need to step away from that and not be on a screen right now. I want you to think about solo screen time versus your kids getting on a screen with their friends and playing. Because I kind of have looked at that a little differently over the years. For example, I have a teenage son and he plays the basketball game and he'll get on and play with his friends. To me, that is almost like, you can hear them chatting with each other about their friend group and that kind of stuff. That is not as alarming to me as a kid in a room by themselves with solo screen time. So also differentiate the screen time that's going to happen in the summer. I think that's very, very important. The other thing is have set times when you have no screens and set times when you allow screens. I think that's a good tip for the summer. Always no screens in bedrooms or bathrooms, especially at ages 8 and 10. They're going to start aging out of that rule about 17 or so. But at 8 and 10, no phones in bedrooms or bathrooms ever.
How do you explain to children that I'm allowed to have my phone in my room?
So one of the things that I say to my kids is, Mom and Dad, we need our phone in our room because Dad gets calls in the middle of the night, work calls that are important that he has to take. And Mom has a college student away. So if that college student needs me, I want to make sure my phone is available. But I'm not scrolling Instagram at 2 a.m. And I think that's the difference. I'm not laying there rotting in my bed at night. And so until you get a little older and you can manage that on your own, we're just going to put the phone on the kitchen counter for the night. And that's kind of a standard operating rule in our home. It always has been. My kids are 21 and 17 now. My 17-year-old, obviously my 21-year-old, she's an adult, college, all the things. But my 17-year-old, he does take his phone in his room now with the door open and that kind of stuff. He's graduated into that. But he still puts his phone on the kitchen counter every night. Every morning when I wake up, it's there. Because it's just been a standard operating procedure since, he was little with all screens. And when I say screens, we have no TVs, no PlayStations, anything like that in the room until at least 17 plus, when they're kind of starting to age out of those guidelines. A couple things about summer. I think it's great that you're already thinking about it. This is bigger than a screen time conversation. And what I mean by that is we want our kids to be creating a bucket list. Every summer when my kids were growing up, they had a bucket list. Go to the beach, play basketball, whatever. That creates some goals and gets their mind going on what they want to accomplish over the summer. Talk also about goals. I have an athlete in the house. So my question to him was, how much do you want to bulk up over the summer? What's your workout schedule going to look like over the summer? What do you want to gain with all these extra hours that you have? That sort of thing. So that just keeps them focused on things other than screens. I know sometimes we just zone in on, okay, how much screen time are we going to allow? But we got to zoom out. How are we stewarding all of their time that they're using every day. And I think that it makes for some really good conversations. Maybe you're serving in your community. Maybe you're baking cookies for the neighbors. Like, what are some sort of things that you guys want to accomplish this summer as a family? And that gets them thinking outside of the screens. So I've seen with my own son, I mean, he's 17 now, but I remember a couple summers ago, like he would say to me, "Hey mom, tonight from 4 to 7, I'm playing a Fortnite tournament. Is that okay? I'm playing it with my friends." And I would say, "Okay, sure." But then that day he would get up and he would work out. He would, go swimming, do all kinds of outside of activities because he knew he was going to be on a screen for 3 hours. And that's kind of like how I started this, that self-regulation. That's what we kind of want to look for with our teenagers as they get older and moving into that space of helping them navigate it.
Can you tell me again what self-regulating might look like for an 8-year-old?
Say you have your day structured out, right? And maybe they're at camp in the morning, you do breakfast, maybe you have lunch together and that kind of thing. And you're saying, from 2 to 4, you have free time at home and you can do arts, crafts, or you can also do screen time or whatever. Like, you're giving them that flexibility of these are the things you can choose from. And if your 8-year-old is every day for 2 hours on screens that whole time, that may be a conversation. And the kid doesn't get in trouble, but you're more like, "Hey, I noticed that your free time, there's lots of things you can do during this 2 to 4, segment. And I notice you're always choosing screen time. Tell me why, or what are you playing, or that kind of stuff," just to get him in the habit of picking other things over screens. But if he continues to do screens, I think that's okay, because still, if that's the only 2-hour period a day, I think that's all right. And you can have those conversations. But it's just a way to start their brain to regulate, like, making good decisions with screens. And the other thing I want to say about that, like, say he plays for 2 hours on a screen and at the end of that, he's real moody and he's got attitude because maybe his game didn't go the way he thought. I actually think that's a really good teachable moment, because I wouldn't try to have the conversation like at the end of the segment, the 2-hour segment. I would let it go for a while, but maybe later that night at bedtime or maybe the next morning at breakfast, I would say, "Hey, do I really noticed that you were in a really bad mood yesterday after you played screens for 2 hours. Do you know what happened? Like, why did you get so angry?" Them thinking to themselves, "Oh my gosh, I played that game, and before playing that game, I was nice. And then after playing that game, like, I was mean." Like, they need to see that for themselves. Like, and they need to almost feel it. It can be a win when they recognize screens change their attitude. And so just things like that, little teachable moments throughout your day. And also, like, share stories with your kids of how you struggle with screens. Like, I crawl in bed at night and I should want to just talk to dad, but sometimes I'm scrolling on Facebook and that's not healthy for me, because that makes them feel vulnerable and they can share when they're not doing great with screens too. It's a family effort here to have this healthy dialogue around screen time and a healthy balance.
I love that. Yesterday I sent your red flag alert system to a couple of friends to print off and put on the refrigerator for the summer. And it's on our refrigerator. And I know this summer in the mornings, I'm going to get my kids to memorize some of the points on your red flag alert system. My kids are pretty familiar with no phones in bedrooms or bathrooms, but I like the one where you have always report to mom when you see someone in a bathing suit or less. And that's just going to become part of our summer routine to really implement that in their brain so they know, oh, that's something I need to talk to my trusted adult about.
I'm so glad that you're implementing this, and I'm so glad you're thinking about it. I'm so glad you brought it up. Thank you for saying that. Summer is a great time to create these guidelines. And if you don't know what the red flags are, it basically is a reporting list. These are the things that I want you to tell me about. And you mentioned anyone in a bathing suit or less. What we're trying to get there is to catch pornography, right? Or if they go to a neighbor's house and somebody takes down their pants or whatever and shows them a private part, we're trying to get them a red flag to go off in the kid's brain. Oh, this is on my list. I need to report this to mom or dad. This keeps them safe when they're playing screens and something may pop up, but it also keeps them safe when they're going to summer play groups or summer sleepovers, if you're going to allow that. So it's a great time. We also have family packs where the language is more curved. So we have one for teenagers where it actually says you're going to report any pornography to me. You're going to report any violence to me. Like, it's a little bit more specific. This summer is a great time to implement to your kids, these are the things I want you to tell me about. They don't know what to tell you. Everything is snap posted, shared. They're so overexposed in this world that they live in. They hear all kinds of new words every day. And so we have to steward that. All that incoming knowledge that's coming into their brain, we want to create this reporting list. These are the things that I want you to tell me if you see or hear any of these things. I want that red flag alert to go off in your brain to come home and tell mom or dad. So that's a great thing to do over the summer.
I think this is a great start, and your information is really helpful.
All right. Well, you've got this. Keep on. And remember, I am all for guidelines, setting those guidelines when they're younger, but always do the conversations too. And as they get older, you've got the conversations to carry you as they're learning to self-regulate even more and make technology decisions on their own.
nextTalk is a 501c3 nonprofit keeping kids safe online. To support our work, make a donation at nexttalk.org. nextTalk resources are not intended to replace the advice of a trained healthcare or legal professional, or to diagnose, treat, or otherwise render expert advice regarding any type of medical, psychological, legal, financial, or other problem. You are advised to consult a qualified expert for your personal treatment plan.
Our nextTalk podcast is in the top 2% of over 3.4 million podcasts ranked by Listen Notes. But now we're also adding YouTube. So this is a whole new thing we're doing. If you could like, subscribe, and comment on these videos, it would help us so much. We appreciate y'all.